On today's episode, we are going to talk about one of the biggest pain points that couples can experience during the wedding planning process and how we can avoid that.
If you crave luxury but need guidance, then stay tuned for magic. Welcome to Wedding Tips and Tales with T.S. Wed, the podcast where we unveil the secrets to crafting the perfect luxury wedding. Join us for expert advice and insider tips that will make your special day unforgettable. Let's make your wedding dreams come true together.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wedding Tips and Tales with T.S. Wed. I am Taryn.
I'm Danny.
And we are the dynamic duo that make up Wyant event planning and design. We are here to give you some tips as you begin your wedding planning process, and probably you're going to have a tale or two mixed in there as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's dive on in.
Well, but first, what are you drinking, Taryn?
Oh, for the love of all that is good. I am drinking a staple, Betty Buzz, lemon lime.
Well, I'm drinking red wine because I didn't know that we weren't drinking that.
You're doing great. I support you in your red wine.
Thank you so much.
It's just a little bit early for me in my time zone, and so it's not quite the right time for me to consume alcohol before picking up my kids at school.
Well, we live on the same time zone, but cheers. Let's get into
Being
it.
generous. Cheers. Okay, so I did a little digging, and the AI and the interwebs told me that one of the biggest pain points for negative reviews that newly married couples have said regarding their wedding planning process had specifically to do with the design and vision aspect not being cohesive or comprehensive from planning process to execution. And this completely sparked my attention because, of course, Taryn event planning and design also has a design element with Sedag Design Studios, which is Danny's design firm. And so for us, we really, really value design and the consistency of design throughout the planning process and each of the wedding events. And so I thought we could speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think part of the thing with design that is maybe not well known to couples that are just engaged in coming into the wedding world is that there's a lot of different ways to have a wedding, right? And when we speak to design, certainly if you're doing a DIY backyard wedding, design might look something as simple as we like these colors and these type of flowers, and that's the end of it, right? But when you're going more into the luxury and ultra luxury, you're looking at, and you can bring this to your lovely weddings as well. You're looking at a full comprehensive design of the entire experience for your guests. So we at TS Wed specialize in destinations. So we're looking at, welcome events, rehearsal dinner, wedding day, brunch sort of things. And so when you're designing for that, you're designing for all of those events. You want this to be a storytelling moment. So like with Sedag Design Studios, all of our things are called storybooks because we're telling the story of this couple, and whether it's how they met, what they're passionate about, their families all coming together. You want the entire experience to speak to that story. So that doesn't mean having an off-the-cuff rehearsal dinner that has nothing to do with the wedding day, but it also doesn't mean just having a smaller version of the wedding day on the rehearsal dinner, right? A great example of this, I would say, is a wedding we just did for a couple that the bride was Chinese, the groom had Japanese heritage, and they're getting married in Hawaii. So they had 3 events to their wedding day. One day was Chinese themed, one day was Japanese themed, one day was Hawaiian themed, and then the wedding day was this amalgamation of all 3, right? So that way it told a story throughout the week for all of their guests, and their guests knew what to expect.
But then when did that process begin? So like, how did that reality come to exist of having this super comprehensive, like on-site experience?
Well, design starts with getting to know the clients, which I think we do really well at TS Wed, but we want to know your weird quirks and the things you're into and the type of music you listen to and your favorite movies and where you went on your first date and how the proposal went, like all of that sort of stuff. We want to know that so we can pull some nuggets from that and utilize it into the design of your wedding, utilize it into the story that you're telling your guests. Maybe you grew up with grandma always cooking a certain meal. Like these are things that we want to know so that when your guests arrive, everything feels intentional and not just like, well, listen, a caprese salad is fantastic. I want one every day of my life, but I'm Italian and so of course I do. But like a caprese to somebody else, like, okay, it's just a fun salad. Or is this like a salad that, your grandma used to always make, or like your very first date, you guys had a Cobb salad. Like these might seem kind of silly and trivial, but when you give these sorts of details, the design element of the wedding and the planning of the wedding can really go around all of those things and incorporate them.
And when you work with a designer, whether it's a wedding planning firm that has design associated with it automatically, like TS Wed, or you've hired a planner who then in turn hires a designer for your event, this type of discovery call for understanding you and your partner and your cultures and your families and things of that nature, that's the first call we have with our clients. And so for us, I think I think there's an important note there that it's very different having a curated design experience that flows from the very first day of the planning process through until the very last event on site, and providing somebody with like a Pinterest page, because what can happen there? Like, how can that go wrong?
Well, and Taryn, you hate this quote that I say all the time, but I'm going to say it again because I can't think of a better example ever. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat.
Oh, so, I do hate it. It's so gross.
I know, but but okay, to crack an egg to make an omelet, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, do that one. No, that's not.
There's only one way to do that.
There's yeah, that one is you've got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah, see, that's why
I'm the same.
Sticking with the skinning of the cats.
Oh, gross.
It's fine. The point is, like on Pinterest, you are going to see so many beautiful weddings. There are so many beautiful weddings out there. And like you might not be a couple that loves pink, but then you're going to see this wedding that's done in pink that's beautiful. Like there are just so many pretty ways to do a wedding that Pinterest boards, and we'll get this sometimes because we'll certainly ask our couples for Pinterest boards if they have them.
Yeah, we love inspiration.
Absolutely. But as you're going through it, you're like, these are completely different weddings. Like these are very different looks. These are very completely different. And the reason that happens is because we are all not one thing, right? Like as people, as humans, as couples, we are not just like, we like blue and nothing else, right? Like no one is really like that. And so when you're looking at things, you're seeing tons of beautiful things and you're trying to mix it with what you really like. And sometimes that can be really hard to find what that thorough line is in between everything. Because you have this one rest wedding that looks beautiful and then this one modern wedding that looks beautiful and like them both. Rustic and modern might not go together in reality.
And if you are not like in an industry, like if you're not an interior designer or a wedding designer or something like that, if that's not your specialty, if design is not your specialty, you might go, well, I absolutely love this ceremony setup and I must absolutely 100% have this, and I also love this dinner reception setup that is completely different, but I love it so much. And if you don't have a planner or a designer that is prepared to educate you a little bit in a very kind and appropriate way, but like, hi, these are incohesive,
right?
And there is no way that these, like, we can have these together without it feeling like two separate experiences.
Right.
But here's how we might be able to bring them together. Then you are going to have a wedding day that maybe it is the perfect representation of the ceremony picture that you loved and the perfect representation of the dinner reception that you loved. And yet you walk on site and it feels like you've walked into two different events.
Right. I mean, think about it. It's just like, I mean, we can name a million HGTV shows, but like Property Brothers comes to mind where like, it's always like they're redoing a couple's home or they're building a couple's home and they'll bring the couple to like another model house. Say, oh, what do you like? What do you don't like? And so often, and in part because it makes good TV, like the partner one will be like, oh, I really like a modern white kitchen. And partner two will be like, oh, but I really wanted some color. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, how are they gonna, if he wants white, and like, how are they gonna do this? And then at the end, right, they're always like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect kitchen. We love it. But that's kind of the same mentality that you have to go into it when it comes to working with a designer and wanting a design comprehensive look to your wedding week, is that like, this is what their specialty is. This is what the designers do. I mean, my Instagram is all wedding designs. There's like one cat video, a bunch of Taylor Swift, and then like all wedding designs and wedding things. Like I am constantly in the world of design and weddings and interior design and all of that and styling and all of that sort of thing. And so like trust, and it doesn't have to be with us, but like trust your designer if you want a designed affair that does look like more than just a planner. It looks like a planner and designer. Um, and then trust them to be able to pull together the things that are meaningful to you, what you guys like, right? A good planner and designer are going to ask you for like, how have you decorated your home? Like, do you have a favorite museum? Do you have a favorite artist? Do you have like, what's your favorite type of music? Like all of these sorts of things are just little key elements into who you guys are as a couple. And maybe it's not all used on the wedding day, right? We had a very sweet couple that said they like, quite frankly, they collect like little stuffies every time they travel, and they love these little stuffies. We're like, could we figure that out? How to use that to design into the wedding day? Some things we drop by the wayside. Other things, they love Disney too. But it was like great, so we can use like subtle quotes, and we can do these other little subtle things to tie that in without it being in your face too. So yeah, just like again, and we've talked about it a million times, like just open communication with your planner. And if you're wanting something curated and designed and not cookie cutter, make sure your planner either works with a designer like we do, or we'll hire a designer for you. That way you can really have something that's curated.
Right. I think that's really, really smart. And it's something that's curated throughout the entire experience too. So that way you don't have a mismanaged expectation of what your wedding is going to look and feel like because you just, shared a Pinterest board, or maybe your planner or coordinator said, great, I'm going to throw together a quick, 4-page document on Canva. And that's going to be the whole scope of your design. And that just, it's not comprehensive enough for it to feel really really cohesive all the time. Sometimes it absolutely can, but depending on what you're providing, your planner or your coordinator, like sometimes it can't. And so having somebody who's skilled and qualified and able to really bring it this really consistent flow of design through the entire experience, starting truly with like the save the dates, I think. Right. Because that's the first introduction to the design is the save the dates, and then the invitations, and then the welcome thing, and blah, 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 blah. Like that's absolutely going to be your best bet to feeling like you have had a comprehensive design experience and that your vision was really brought to life.
And the way to do that too is to have a planner who then shares that design with all of the other vendors that are participating, right? So this goes to your florist, this goes to your rentals, this goes to hair and makeup. This should go to everybody that's taking part in the day because they are all adding to the aesthetic and design of the day. Right. And so it should, again, if you want it to look like intentional and seamless throughout, it should be shared with everybody. And another thing that we've discussed internally too is that this also includes guest attire.
Oh yeah.
This is a big one because your guests are in so many of your wedding photos. And when you look at these weddings that are published on, let's say, Brides or Martha Stewart or Carrots and Cake or Over the Moon, like the pictures where there are guests in the picture, whether it's the bridal party or what have you, like there is some cohesiveness to the coloring of the attire. And so for couples going into this, to be so frank, when you get a wedding invitation that says like, oh, open attire, that's the worst. It's the worst. It's the worst for everybody. You think you're doing it to be nice, to let people pick whatever they want to wear. I just want them to be comfortable. But the reality is that's too many choices for us. We need it to be people do well with rules and structure when it comes to a one-day affair. Maybe not everybody all day in life, but when it comes to a one-day affair, being specific with people is actually wildly helpful. You don't have to be so specific as to say like you have to buy your dress from Saks, right? Like that's crazy. But you can buy it from Saks, but saying like, here's the color scheme that we want, or like really the color scheme is the best one. And you can separate this by like the guys and the girls or however you want to do it. A big one is like your family, your immediate family should all be in a similar color scheme. So the family photos all look clean and pulled together and intentional. There's nothing worse than like everybody else is wearing a light blue and then like Aunt Sally's wearing bright yellow and she's in every single photo, right? That's going to look weird and that's going to really hurt the design and the cohesiveness of it. And so like be specific with that. People want that. They appreciate that. And so don't be scared to be specific.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I hope that shed some light on this particular pain point. We want, our brides and grooms and all of our couples, and we want everybody's wedding to feel like their vision has come to life and like it was the most beautiful, best day that they've ever experienced. And so hopefully this kind of gives you a little bit of a roadmap to how to tackle that from the very beginning, whether you are hiring a planner with a designer, hiring a designer separate from your planner, or just being really intentional with your coordinator or your own self as you go, okay, great. Like I have to be mindful of these things, whether it's the consistency of the ceremony with the vision of the cocktail, with the vision of the dinner reception, and the invitations should match everything. And the attire should also, kind of coincide with everything. Hopefully this gives you just some fun tips that make it really come to life. Did we tell a tale? We didn't. I have a tale. I'll tell a tale right now. My tale is about this absolutely stunning, beautiful wedding that we hosted in Hawaii. And it was for a professional footballer in Europe. And it was really intimate. Do you remember this? It was at Kaanapali Point at the Sheraton Maui Resort and Spa. It was years ago.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And the couple was so attractive, like insanely beautiful, haute couture gown. Like, again, this was a professional athlete. And so like they had, a generous budget for all the things. And the wedding was completely beautiful. And it was all pale blues, ivories, creams, like very pale greens. Think like, like the silver dollar eucalyptus vibes.
Yep.
This was years ago, back when that was very popular. And we had a great, really ethereal photography team. We had them scheduled to go on a shoot where they went like up on the cliffs of Hawaii.
Oh yeah, that was so pretty.
It was so pretty. And the groom's mother, who was so nice, wore the most bright, loud, orange red pantsuit I've ever seen in my life. And that woman was in every single ceremony picture.
But she was in the front room.
While the piece did get picked up for publication, they had to crop her out of every single picture. And so that means that in their actual wedding album, all you could see, you didn't even look at the couple. You looked at the bright red mom. Like that's immediately where your eye went.
Right.
And my heart just broke. And I remember on site being like, can I tell her to change? Like, which of course you can't do. Don't do that. Like that would have been horrible, but it really did take away. It took away from the photo and the video in a big way. And that means that these lasting memories, like in this couple's album or in any pictures that they had printed and are, in their home, like everybody's eye is immediately going to skip over them and go straight to the bright red orange. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. We should talk one time about the like rules around wedding attire.
Oh yeah, that's a great
one. I think there's some like old school ones that you can ignore now, but some ones that like you just gotta
do. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
All right. But for now, this one is all done. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope that we led you in a good direction. Comment below if you want to hear us talk about anything specific in the future, and we will see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your questions below for future podcast topics. Subscribe, like, and let us know your favorite tip from this video. Until next time, let's keep making wedding dreams come true together. Bye for now.